Good morning from sunny Amsterdam. Thank you all for taking the time to join our webinar. This is the second episode of our series where we will focus on digital marketing, mainly Google search, Google text ads, and display. If you haven't made it to our previous episode, just a quick reminder. So these series of episodes of webinars, the main goal is to have hoteliers improve their technical skills, improve their marketing skills during these times where we would say everybody has a bit more availability. So the idea is to, from a user guest perspective, to give you as much as possible to get better at your current jobs. So once the confinement is over, once the industry bounces back, you'll be better equipped with better technical skills and better knowledge to improve your overall performance, whether it's on the website perspective or your digital marketing. Just a quick reminder on the series. So last week we covered mostly website metrics. So we gave you kind of our specific way of looking at things in terms of website, the most important metrics. This week and the following will focus mostly on digital marketing. Give you the best kind of best practices, what to focus on, the questions you should ask yourself, and how you can improve your overall strategies. The fourth week will be on availability, rate parity, and distribution, very important element on the hotel website perspective. So this is not just how to have a better revenue management strategies, but it's really how can you have a better website, but a more effective website, and overall better online performance. And the last week will be the 7th of May. We'll close down with website best practices, really specific tips on having the best possible website. So quick rules on the webinar. If you have any questions, click on the buttons below. You would see raise your hand if you want to ask a specific question, or you can just use the Q&A, asking your question directly on the chat. We'll cover most of the questions at the end. We'll leave it 10 minutes for Q&A session, but feel free to ask questions at any time. We'll always take a break after a few slides to cover questions that are related to those specific slides and topics. All right, so before we start, I would like to introduce the team. Asil, Gnastra, and Savina will assist me in the webinar today. Savina will cover more the technical parts, so mostly the reports and best practices. And Asil and Gnastra will help mostly on the answering your questions. You can speak to them directly or ask your questions on the chat as well. So a quick reminder, not sure everybody knows about us. So we are Userguest. We're a smart notification tool for hotel websites. We show smart notifications on the hotel site to push your visitors to make it to the booking engine and kind of increase their willingness to book, kind of entice them to complete the booking. So we use a very sophisticated algorithm that has that impact on your hotel website. The goal is obviously to improve the performance, and through our notifications, we're able to achieve that. All right, so quickly, we'll go through the content. So we'll cover mostly the paid traffic sources, sorry. We'll cover Google Ads, what's important, what to look at on the reports, and we cover a few case studies as well. And we'll finish with a few misconceptions about the industry, about digital marketing, and the takeaways. At the end of this, we'll leave 10 to 15 minutes for a Q&A session. So if you have questions, you could always leave them at that stage. You can ask at that later stage. So let's start with the paid traffic sources. So as you know, there's different platforms where you can advertise your hotel. So here we've listed quite a few, the most, let's say, well-known for the hotel industry. So first, the most famous one, the most used is Google Ads. That's the one we'll be focusing on today. Then we have the other search engines, whether it's Baidu, very big in China, or Yandex in Russia, We have Bing. It's mostly popular in Europe and US, but a bit less in the rest of the world. We have then the other type of advertisement platforms would be Facebook, which also includes Instagram. Then we have TripAdvisor and YouTube. Those are mostly your paid traffic sources, meaning that the hotel pays this platform to be able to advertise their hotel and bring traffic, bring visitors, generate traffic from those platforms. This is the kind of the quickest way of, for you as a hotelier to start bringing people to your website. By just being on Google is not enough. You actually need to be proactive and bring those people. So here we kind of shown quickly how globally the marketing budget is split. This is based on research done across the globe. So this research includes over 500,000 hotels. So this is roughly the averages, how hotels actually spend their marketing budget. So we see that SEM, this is the Google search marketing. So whether it's Google Ads or the other platforms you just mentioned, we see that's 30% of the overall traffic, overall marketing budget, and it accounts for a big chunk of the hotel website traffic. So this is really where we're going to focus our webinar on, and making sure that we understand this SEM part, and as well as the display and remarketing. So between the two, it's 50% of marketing budget. So it's the biggest chunk. So we need to know exactly what, how to look at it from a hotel perspective, what's important, and how to make sure we have the best performance we can get from our vendors. All right. So now we'll start with Google Ads. So we'll try to explain briefly what it is for those of you who don't know exactly. So we'll start first with the Google Ads, text ads. Here we're looking at a sponsored ad. So it's, as mentioned, it's a kind of a text that would appear on top of the Google platform when a user searches for specific keywords. In this case, we have an example, Bali Beachfront Resort. And the first hotel that appears, it is lotusbungalows.com in Chandidasa. So if you see this hotel specifically with this current situation, there's not that many advertisers. So this hotel had decided to keep on investing and actually show, when we type all type of keywords, they will be at the top. Oops. So the benefits of using Google Ads, it's quite simple. Generate more traffic to your website. This is the first goal. So we mentioned a bit on the last episode how important traffic was. And there's different ways of doing marketing initiatives, kind of different ways to generate that traffic to your website. So this is by far the most efficient and quickest way to get to that goal. So really, by investing on Google Ads, we will right away start getting more traffic on your website. Second part is attract new targets and new bookings. So apart from getting the traffic, you would like that traffic to translate into bookings. So this is the second benefit, obviously. Once you get the more traffic you get from on your website, the more visitors, the more chances you will have to generate that traffic. So we'll show a bit later how to best get that traffic, how to get the right targets to be able then to maximize that traffic and translate it into bookings. And the third part, on top of being able to bring new targets and new bookings, one of the most important parts is you can win back bookings from OTAs. So we all know that OTAs spend a lot on the Google Ad platform or the other platforms that we mentioned previously. So this is the best way for you to advertise your hotel. And when people look for your hotel, they actually book it through your own website instead of booking it through Expedia, Booking, and the others. So this is really the main focus. So those are the main benefits without getting into the technical things, how we can optimize. So this is really from a hotel perspective, whether you should decide to invest or not on Google Ads, make sure that, or these some of your goals. Do you want more traffic? Do you want more bookings? Do you want more direct bookings? Then if you tick all the boxes, then it is one of your priorities, invest in Google Ads. Well, before we move, feel free to ask any questions at any stage, and one of the panelists will pick it up. So the second part is remarketing. Oops, Sorry. Remarketing, it is something that we do a lot on the hotel industry. It seems to be a very cost-efficient way of generating traffic, but it's really important for you to understand how it works. So how remarketing works. Very simply put, a visitor comes to your website. In most of cases, visitors do not book on that visit, that first visit. They will come back. First, they doing some research. Maybe they need to talk with their partners, their wives, their husbands, before they can commit and really buy that specific room from your hotel website. But in most cases, that doesn't happen on the first time they visit your website. Then that user leaves. What happens to that user when they leave? They browse other websites. They visit sports websites, news. They can visit shop for cars or anything. And then what happens? When they visit these other websites, remarketing ads actually follows these users on the other websites, shows the ads of your hotel website on different websites, which kind of pushes the user at the later stage to click on that ad and then come back to your hotel website to complete the booking. So this is kind of the best way of using remarketing. So it's really, the benefits is to convince previous visitors to come back. So not everybody will come back to your hotel website, but this is kind of a way to push them, try to convince them to come back. Second benefit would be to remind visitors to complete the booking. So a lot of times they're not convinced enough. They are still hesitating between your hotel and another competitor. By showing them, reminding them and showing them your ads on different platforms, on different blogs, you can kind of remind them to book with you, or a way to convince them by giving them an extra discount, something to bring them back to your website. And last part, which is kind of a similar point, display more targeted visuals and offers. For the people that have already been on your hotel website, let's say they visited the family rooms. And you can be very targeted in that sense. Doing remarketing, you can show them specifically the family room when they are actually browsing other websites. So they see something very targeted and very personalized to them with maybe an extra offer. They can also convince them to come back to your hotel website and complete the booking. So these two, Google Text Ads and Google Remarketing, are the kind of the best known tools used by hotels.
Yeah, so I just want to add something. So as you know, these campaigns are based on the cost per click. So if no one clicks on the banner, you won't pay anything. So it's a very efficient way to advertise, because you can have like a lot of people seeing your ads and your hotel without paying anything yet. So we already have like a suggestion, a question from one of the hotels. So asking if we'll share the presentation after the webinar. So don't worry, you will all have the presentation that will be sent to you after the webinar. So don't worry about this. You can go back.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, we are perfect. So we'll answer the questions at a later stage, like Asi mentioned. All right. So what's important? So we briefly explained, I'm sure most of you already know about Google Ads or remarketing, but now it's what's important, what do you need to know? So we start first with target markets. So this is a really important part of any marketing activity, any marketing initiative. So in this case, there's different steps to identify your top markets. What you need to know is that you will invest budgets on these platforms, but you need to understand that first you need to invest on the right markets. Not every market would perform well. Hotels, understanding their target markets, will have a high chances of having very successful marketing campaigns. So first step to identify your top markets would be, what are the most important markets for your hotel? That's the first step, meaning where's the biggest volume, how many the visitors, who likes your hotel, based on people actually that come to your hotel, that stay. You should have the sense of actually which markets with nationalities come the most to your hotel. Second part is which ones do book online. So by looking at your Google Analytics, you can really easily know that most of my online bookings come from let's say the US or from Australia or from the UK. So those are the markets that I should focus on when I do any digital marketing initiative. And the last part, use the top 5 based on the numbers of visitors and the conversion rate. So that should be your focus. Maximum 5 markets where you would spend most of your budget on, based on the visits, that volume of visits, and based on how often these people convert. So if you have a high number of bookings and a high number of visitors, then this is a market you should focus on. But in the case of you have a lot of visitors from that market, but barely any bookings, this market specifically shouldn't be your priority. You will just spend a lot of money on the marketing, but that would not translate into bookings. So this is a very important part to understand. Next part is seasonality. You need to understand, get a sense of when do people book. So after identifying your markets, for each market, knowing when these visitors, this specifically market book, will give you a very good sense of the timing of your investment. If you know, for instance, that the US as a market, they tend to book your destination or your hotel mostly January and February, that would give you a very good indication that I should focus part of my budget or a big chunk of my budget on the US during that period. So the booking periods are one of the main factors to understand. Second would be your booking lead time. For each market, people tend to book with the similar behavior. So again, coming back to the US example, if you know that your US market, they stay mostly on the summer and their booking lead time is about 90 days. So you know exactly when you should start investing. So this is really getting the timing right, understanding the seasonality of your top markets and making the difference between when they actually search versus when they actually book and versus when they stay. So the right thing here to understand is the booking behavior and adapt your investment, adapt your campaigns accordingly to that behavior for each market. Not all markets behave the same way, so you need to be able to adapt to that.
Okay, maybe just before you move to the next slide, we have a question regarding the remarketing from Yanti Lestari. Hello, Yanti. So is the remarketing automatically set up when we do SEM or GDN? So the idea is, well, the answer is not really. It's not automatically set up. You do have to manually activate it, and we highly recommend you to work with an expert that really know how to do that, because you can easily waste your budget if you don't do it with someone that isn't an expert.
Yeah, so there's the remarketing campaigns actually are set up directly from the Google Ads platform. So there's the GDN and there's the remarketing. They're not exactly the same thing. So remarketing, it is part of GDN, but doesn't mean automatically that if you run any GDN campaigns, you will do remarketing. So remarketing is really targeted to people that have already visited your website. So then you have to do the setup on Google Analytics or Google Ads to be able to retarget only the people that have already been on your website. So this is kind of the most likely visitors, users to come back to your website and book. So that's why this campaign tends to be very effective. It's just the likelihood of, or the probability of those people coming back to your website. All right. Now, we first understood the target markets, then the timing with the seasonality. The third part is positioning, your keywords. As a hotel, it is very, very important to know where you stand. What's your best selling point, your unique selling point, your positioning as a property. If you're in this case, the picture that we have a very beautiful hotel in Italy. This is very clearly we can see they have an amazing infinity pool, and their beachfront. Looks to be very luxurious. That should be very much like your positioning as a hotel, right? Those are the keywords that you need to focus on. No need to have a look at a lot of different things, try to cover a lot of different type of keywords, but really focus on the keywords that reflect the best your hotel. So instead of try to go for volume, we go for quality. Your budget has to be invested in the smartest possible way. By defining your positioning, having a very clear positioning, you would avoid getting clicks that will never convert. If somebody looks for infinity pool as a keyword and your hotel appears and they get to your website and the first picture they see is a picture like this one, an infinity pool, the chances that you fit with their criteria are extremely high. The opposite, if you target the keyword infinity pool hotel and the user looks for family hotel and you're a family hotel, once they land on the website, they see more kids playing, picture of kids playing. Doesn't fit with what the user is looking for. So the likelihood they will book is very slim or very small in that case. So these are things to really understand and pay attention to. Next part is your budget. This is how you prioritize your spend. There's a smart way of doing it. You could just put 1,000 euros on your 1,000 USD, 1,000 euros, doesn't matter, on your Google Ads. Could be extremely effective with a very high return on investment, or could be a waste of money. So previously we talked about the markets, choosing the top markets and choosing and understanding your booking behavior. That's what it will dictate how you invest your budget. Coming back to the first examples, we determined that the US as a market is our priority. We also determined that that specific market, they tend to book the most on January and February. Based on the data, we understand that's their booking behavior. Here, what you should do in terms of budget, focus most of that budget in that specific market. In the US, during the month of January and February. Maybe the following month, March, it's another market that books the most and that fits more their booking behavior. Maybe in March, the UK as a market, they book way more, there's more volume, and they tend to book more between the months of March and April. Then your strategy should be a bit different. For those specific months, March and April, we should focus our budget on another market. So this is the way to think about things, about your digital marketing spending, that every decision that you make needs to be backed up by data, backed up by research that you've done previously, and having a good understanding of your visitors and their behaviors. Then you can make smart investments and expect a very high return on investment. Do we have any questions, any comments to add at this stage?
Yeah, so that it seems that we have a question that is quite common in these times. So someone is asking, due to the situation, is it relevant to target the domestic market now or the foreign markets?
Specifically, right now, we would recommend mostly to focus on domestic markets. The reason is quite simple, is we don't know yet how the other countries will react. So assuming the situation gets better for everybody, for your own country, if there's a deconfinement planned, that might happen, let's say in June, people will start first booking domestic travel rather than book international, because other countries might not accept foreigners at this stage. So that's exactly how things are gonna, we expect things to evolve, is that first have more domestic travels rather than international, because it's unknown how countries will react between one another and if they would accept even foreigners coming to their own countries. But if the confinement happens in one specific countries, people will be allowed to travel within the country. So at this specific stage, we recommend really focusing more on your domestic strategy for the upcoming months, and hope for to attract as many visitors and get as many bookings for that specific period. All right. All right. We'll move to the next part in just a second. All right. So this next part, Savina will cover it. So Savina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Isham. So the next part will cover the reports. So after you've implemented all of the things that we've discussed, you have determined your target markets, budget allocation, it's important to actually analyze the performance and determine whether the person managing your campaigns is actually doing a good job. So to do this, we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions. So the first one is, are you bringing new people to your website? As we discussed, remarketing is great. So you bring people back to your website and the conversion rates there are very high. But you also need to attract new people who don't know anything about your hotel, who found you on Google search and who search for relevant keywords that are related to your hotel. So here, the metric that you need to be looking at is the number of clicks. So how many people actually clicked on the ads that you have? These are the new visitors to your website. The other very important thing, of course, is at the end of the day, the number of bookings and the revenue. So here you need to be looking at the number of conversions. Conversions, in most cases, when we're talking about Google Ads, stands for bookings. So it's very important that your vendor is able to track the bookings and the revenue that you are generating from the campaigns. Once you're able to actually track the revenue, the next question is, are you making a good investment? Is the budget spent well? And are you making your money back? So here we're looking at the return on investment. So this metric is also very important. You should be always making sure that you can track this metric to make sure that you understand whether the investment is good and whether you should keep on investing in certain keywords or maybe change your strategy, or even the strategy to invest in other channels that are more profitable to you. The other question again is, you are investing a certain budget, but are you investing in the right markets? So here, one of the things that you can be looking at are the conversion rates per country and the cost per conversion. So mostly we would recommend, of course, to invest most of the budget in the markets that actually have a cheaper cost per booking, because this way you can spend more of your budget towards those countries, and you have more money to spend and basically reach more people and bring new visitors to your website. If we look at the next slide, we've actually given an example of a report. So here, I think it's good to just cover all the metrics, just to explain what everything is. So the first one is the impressions. So the impressions stands for the number of times your ad has shown on the Google search. So how many times did people see the ad showing? The clicks, these are the number of times people clicked on those ads. The next metric is the CTR, which stands for click-through rate. In this case, this is the percent of people who clicked on the ads. So the impressions divided by the clicks. The CTR is a good indication of the quality of your ads. So if you see a low CTR, this might mean that maybe your ad is not relevant enough, you're not bidding on the right keywords, or it's just you're not displaying an attractive offer. The next metric is the average CPC. CPC stands for cost per click. So how much does it cost for one click to your website? This is a good indication, again, whether you're investing in the right keywords, and it gives you indication whether you should invest in one market or another. Of course, it's very important to have more budget to spend, so we always recommend focusing on the cheaper but relevant CPCs for the target markets. The next metric is conversions. As we mentioned, conversion stands for number of bookings. And then we also have the cost per conversion. So how much does it cost you to have one booking? How much did you spend to generate one booking? We also have a conversion rate. So this is, again, the percentage of bookings from all the people who saw the ad. And we have a total conversion value. So the conversion value stands for the revenue that you've generated. We have a cost, so this is how much you've spent on your campaigns, and we have return on ad spend. So this means is what is the percentage? So it's basically the total conversion value or revenue that you've generated divided by the cost. So some of the important metrics here to focus on, as we discussed, are the clicks. So how many people came to your website? These are all the new visitors that you've generated through your campaigns. We have the conversions, so the bookings, how many bookings did you generate? And of course, what is the total revenue? And also we have the return on ad spend. So what's the return on your investment, which gives you an indication whether your campaigns are actually successful or not. Here we also have the impressions in the first square. So this is something that is not as important as the other metrics. You can generate a lot of impressions, but if at the end you're not generating enough clicks or conversions, this is not an important metric because you can be, for example, if you're a hotel in Bali and you bid on a keyword Bali hotel, you will be getting a lot of impressions because a lot of people are searching for this keyword. But at the end of the day, you have a lot of competition and your keywords are not going to be very specific. So this means that if you're a highly luxury hotel, you will get also people who are maybe looking for a cheaper accommodation clicking on your ad, and you're not going to generate the bookings that you actually want to generate. So these are some of the main metrics that you need to be focusing on, the clicks, the bookings, the revenue, and the return on investment.
Thank you, Savina. Just before moving forward, we have another question from Parmita. Hi, Parmitas. So from the Garcia Ubud Hotel. So the question is, when is the best time to start the campaign, as they are a new hotel? So they just opened the hotel. They're wondering if they should start advertising right now.
I think it's important to start building awareness of your hotel from the very beginning. You have to be, of course, smart about the way you spend your budget, because if you're a new hotel, maybe you don't have enough data yet to decide what is the right market. So start a bit small, test a few markets and see which ones are generating the clicks and the revenue that you're willing to generate. Be very specific about the keywords that you bid on. So again, as Isham discussed previously, only bid on keywords which are very relevant for your hotel. Definitely bid on your own personal, on your brand name. This way you generate traffic to your website and people will come and book directly instead of going through the OTAs, which again saves you money from commission that you pay to the OTAs. So I think it's important to answer your question. It's important to start building your campaigns from the very beginning.
Yeah, awareness, I guess, is the right word. So awareness. You have to build awareness, and one of the best way to do it is definitely launching display campaigns. So your agency or your expert can recommend you on this.
Mm-hmm. Just to add a point quickly. We mentioned previously that one of the benefits of the campaigns is generate traffic. Another one could be generate bookings. At this stage, being a new hotel, your priority should be generating traffic to your website, meaning creating awareness, making sure that people actually come in to your own website. So this is really kind of should be your objective and your priority as a hotel that just opened. So there's the different ways of different strategies to implement in this specific case. Are we taking more questions at this stage?
So yeah, we have another one regarding the CTR. So someone is asking what percentage is a good CTR?
Okay, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So I would say that in the industry, 2% is good. In the digital marketing industry, 2% is just enough. But specifically for the hotel business, a good market should give you a CTR of at least 5%. In some cases, there's a mix between brand keywords and generic keywords. For brand keywords, obviously your CTR will be very high. If somebody's looking for your own hotel name, your CTR could be 15%, 20%. If somebody's looking for generic term, meaning terms such as beachfront hotel in Bali, let's say, then this is a generic term. The CTR might be low, but your average should be around 4 or 5. This is a good metric. If it's more around 1 to 2%, something's wrong. Your targeting might not be the best. All right.
Great, thank you, Hisham. Sabina, we can move on with the next slide.
Okay. Hisham, if you can move to the next section. So in the next section, we're covering a couple of case studies to help you understand how to actually structure your campaigns. So in this first part, we're talking about how to prioritize your budget spending. So of course, we all don't have unlimited budget, so you have to decide where to invest more. So in the location breakdown that you see on the screen, this is the information for the country's performance on your own hotel website. For those of you who use Userguest, our dashboard actually has this data available. You can access it at any time. But this information would also be available on Google Analytics for those of you who don't have access to our dashboard. So here we have the breakdown, for example, by country, and we see the number of bookings and the number of revenue that they're generating. We always recommend to focus on the markets who already drive most bookings and revenue for you. It makes sense that a bigger percentage of your budget would have to go to those countries. So in this case here, we see that Australia and Indonesia are generating 19 and 14 bookings in comparison to 4 or 3 or 1 booking in the other locations. So this is about the budget prioritization. If we move on to the next slide. Here we have an example of how to actually identify a new potential market. So sometimes you have a lot of visitors traditionally from certain markets, and you already know that these are your top performing ones. But let's say you have a bit of an influx in marketing budget, and you have to decide whether you need to invest more in those ones that you have been targeting so far, or you maybe have another potential markets. So in this example, we see that Japan, which has 450 visitors, has already generated 5 bookings. And if we look at the conversion rate, which is the bookings divided by the website visitors, we see that they actually have a very high conversion rate, which means that there is a potential there to generate even more bookings, and maybe they just don't have enough website visitors yet because you haven't been advertising to this particular target market. So looking at the conversion rates would really help you determine whether there's a new market that you can explore. So this is how you can find new potential markets. Moving on to the next case study. Thank you. Here we have also tackled the ads and offers for the different markets. So we already talked about the lead time per market, and it's very important to display the right offers for the right markets. again, this screenshot here is from our dashboard, but you can also, as a hotel, probably have this data of what is the lead time for every single market that you have. In this example, Australia has a lead period of 71 days, while Indonesia, for example, has a lead period of 9.1 days. This means that, of course, Australia, the UK, and the US, in this example, you need to target with an advanced purchase offer. So maybe target them with an offer that applies after 60 days, and they get a good discount for this time period. While Indonesia, in this case, is a last-minute booking country, which means that you can offer a last-minute offer. So maybe something that applies a couple of days or a week before the check-in date. Of course, the average booking window would also give you an idea of how much in advance you need to start advertising. So if we see that Australia on average books 71 days in advance for your property, this means that you have to start, let's say, if you want to attract bookings for the summer period, this means that you already have to start targeting Australia to attract this market. I think this is all for this section. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I think we had a question. The question was about how often can we change the markets that we target? So is it every couple months or not?
So some markets definitely have a very specific seasonality. Maybe they only travel for certain months of the year. These ones you can change and turn on and off depending on when they actually stay at your hotel. But I would recommend that for your top markets, you need to have an ongoing campaign. In the examples that we saw before, where Australia and Indonesia were the top performing markets, I would recommend that you have them year round. And then for your other ones, you can change them depending on seasonality. Normally, the seasonality is about 2-3 months, so you can try and change your target a bit every 2-3 months. But also, of course, this depends on your marketing budget. If you have a lot of budget to spend, it's good to have a broader, like to target more markets and reach more markets. And it's not good to change them very frequently. I would definitely not recommend changing target every couple of weeks or even every single month, but every few months would be okay.
Okay, thank you. So a few takeaways here. So very quickly to summarize a few things. So the essentials of digital marketing. We kind of mentioned it throughout the presentation, but what's really important is answering these questions. So your top markets, who's your target? Who you should invest on? The seasonality tells you when you should invest on that specific market. Your positioning answers the question what. So what's my positioning? What should I advertise online? What keywords I should position myself? The visuals that I choose, which visuals should I push? That's all gives an idea to your customer base of your positioning as a hotel. If you're visually using family packages, having a family visual, so kids playing on the beach, those kind of visuals, that sets your positioning as a family branded hotel versus pushing another type of target, very high luxurious, pushing your infinity pool and things like that. So it's really important to understand what. And the budget, it just answers the question, how do I invest? You need to have the answers of all these questions to have very successful digital marketing. So I think we explained each point, how the mindset that you should have. As we started the beginning of the webinar, the idea is to give you the tools and the thinking when you deal with your vendor, when you deal with your ad agency, these are the things, either information that they should have, maybe you should provide to them, or it's for you to understand whether they're doing the right job or not, whether they're targeting the right markets, whether they invest in your budget in the best possible way, whether they're focusing on the right seasonality, and whether they got your positioning as a property. So this is really the essentials in that sense. And the last part before we start with the questions, we wanted to focus on few known digital marketing myths and misconceptions. So one of the first ones, we always hear this, and I'm sure most of you have said it more than once, is why invest in Google Ads? OTAs have much more budget. So the answer is that's wrong. That's a misconception. In general, they do have much budget, obviously. So I can tell you this from my experience at Expedia, running these campaigns. So this is how it works, whether it is Expedia or Booking.com. So Booking, they have 1.2 million properties and a budget of like $1 billion per year. Actually, the budget is way lower than that for Booking.com, the brand. This is Booking.com, the bigger company. So that includes Agoda and the others. But let's say they have 1 billion per year, to make it simple. This means that their budget per property is just over $800 per year, which makes it to $69 per month, which is nothing for you. That's what you need to understand is, for your own property, you have much more budget than Expedia and then Booking than anybody else. For your own positioning, you have a much bigger budget than the OTAs. You might compete against others, other hotels, or maybe the chains, but for your own specifically keywords and very detailed positioning, you have way more budget than you think you have. So that very small budget can take you way further than you might think. So second misconception and myth, investing in SEO is cheaper than SEM. This might be true in other industries, but despite what you might hear from SEO vendors or other agencies, in SEO, you cannot compete against OTAs. For the simple fact is that the SEO has to do with your destination. Let's come back to the example, Bangkok hotels. That's the main keyword search for Bangkok. For Bangkok hotels, your own hotel in Bangkok might have 10 pages, 20 pages. Expedia for Bangkok, they have 3,000, 4,000 pages. This is just, you cannot compete. You cannot really go against them in terms of SEO, but where you can go against them, it is in SEM. So targeting specifically, let's say, coming back to the example, you have a infinity pool hotel, rooftop pool in Bangkok. That's your positioning for that specific keywords. The competition is not that fierce, and you'll be very easily get to the top pages of Google and top positions very quickly if you focus on Google Ads on SEM. And the last part, one of the biggest misconceptions is remarketing campaigns on commission generate a lot of bookings. So the reality is that your vendors charging you commission for bookings that they didn't really come from them. So let me explain that part. So we explained previously how it works. You visit your a visitor comes to your website and then they leave. If they visit other websites, they will see your ad. So a lot of vendors, what happens is they will charge you commission on the users. They only see that ad, that never clicked. Only see that ad, and then when they complete the booking, they will charge you commission. So in some cases, remarketing campaigns can charge you big amounts, 20% up to 30% in your direct bookings would come from remarketing. This is purely impossible. So if that case, just rethink, am I paying too much that vendor? If you're already paying your vendor a couple thousand USD per month for remarketing only campaigns, you're probably being overcharged. You should do your own marketing directly, or go through an agency with flat fees that would charge you remarketing fees. You allocate a specific budget. That would probably cost you way less than going to remarketing campaigns on commission. So this is a big misconception of the industry. So we are coming to an end to our webinar. So now we'll go through the questions that have already been asked. Please use the chat to ask the questions, or just raise your hand and we'll take the question from you directly.
Yes, so okay, we have, so thank you everybody for attending and for the questions. We have one from Pentagama. So the person is questioning how effective the marketing campaigns can be. So taking into consideration that the person left the website, is it really relevant to keep showing them banners and ads to push them to come back to the website? So how the conversion rate is effective for this type of campaigns? We covered a little bit this part earlier.
Yeah, we did. So it is very effective. So in a lot of times, you haven't convinced that user yet. So you still have a chance. Look at remarketing as your last chance, last resort to convince that user to come back to your website and book. So it is quite effective as a type of campaign. So we highly recommend it to use it, because on top of it, they're very cost-effective campaigns. If you're investing your own specific budget, going to, let's say, either doing it in-house or going to an agency would charge you a flat fee for remarketing campaigns, it can be extremely effective.
Great. So another question from Kaksana. So asking how to target the foreigners that are still in the domestic market. So for example, all the foreigners that are still in Bali, how is the best way to communicate to them?
Well, just by really targeting your specific destination. Let's say for Bali, there's no need to do a whole domestic campaign. If you really trying to get those foreigners that are already in your specific destination. So the way to target them is making sure that you go through specific, let's say, keywords. Let's say somebody where to stay in Bali while pandemic, stuck in Bali. Those kind of keywords could be quite effective, and using the language. So language is as important because it will dictate. It will look at the user's browser preference. So targeting all languages could give you a good advantage. Targeting specifically Bali, let's say, as a destination, and focusing on all languages. That would be kind of a way to attract all the foreigners that are still in that destination.
Yeah, and definitely also using the social media platforms and running campaigns through Facebook or Instagram. And by the way, this is going to be the next webinar next week. So we're gonna address this topic, and you'll know more on how to handle these kind of campaigns. Okay, we have another question from Lestari asking if you have a special sessions for SEO. So we just mentioned SEO actually. Yeah.
So the answer for SEO is very blunt. For individual hotels, it is extremely hard, regardless of the efforts, regardless of the budget that you would spend. It's extremely hard to really get to the top of Google rankings, because you're competing against so many different other platforms and players that have so many listings. If you can just count all Expedia companies, you have Expedia, Hotels.com, let's say TripAdvisor, Trivago, Booking.com, Priceline, Orbit, Hotels Combined. You're already on second page of Google, just listing all the OTAs that you know, then the Traveloka, Ctrip, you name it. So there's already too many providers of the too many OTAs and too many price comparison websites that it makes it extremely hard for an individual website to rank high on SEO. Even if you have the best approach to SEO, you don't have the budget to compete against them. So when providers will promise you to rank on Google for generic terms, not your own brand term, for generic term, for Hotel Bali, you will rank on first position on the first page in 2 months. This is a lie. This is impossible. So I can tell you from my experience at Expedia, the SEO team, we're talking about an in-house team of a few hundred people. And for the big destination, you would have teams of 10 to 20 only focusing on destination. And Bali, it is a big destination, let's say, for most OTAs. So there's a lot of investment being made in there. So that's why we do not cover or offer the service of SEO.
And on top of that, what we noticed is that actually the majority of the traffic that comes through organic or through SEO to your website actually come from your own keywords, so your hotel name. So if you check, for instance, if you have Google Analytics, go on the search query option, and you will see that all your traffic, organic traffic, come from your hotel name. So it's not like you cannot try to attract users with other type of keywords. So that's why it's really not that relevant to invest that much on SEO. Okay, great. We have another question from Pentagama asking whether it's important or not to really have a Google Ads campaigns, because anyways the OTAs are also going to bid for it, and their visitors also will come to our website at the end. That's a good question.
Yeah, very good question. So there's two main arguments. First one is, why pay commission when you can get the direct booking? So compared to the budget that you will invest for at least your own brand terms, it's very limited budget that you would invest, and in return you can make sure that you're not paying commission, or you pay the least possible commission to the OTAs. That's the first argument. And second part is, when let's say the user looks for your hotel, so hotel XYZ, and they click on the OTA ad, so Expedia's ad of hotel XYZ, you're not guaranteed that the user will end up booking hotel XYZ. Once they get to the Expedia, they would see other hotels, your competitors, other very similar hotels to yours. So the chances that they book your hotels are not that high. So in a lot of cases, what we see happening is that once they make it to Expedia, they would go for the best offer that is. And Expedia or Booking, they would rank the hotels based on similarities. In most cases, you'll be your direct competitors listed right after you, or your closest competitor. So a lot of times you actually lose the booking to your competitors or other alternatives. But if you would invest your own budget, cover at least your brand keywords, so your hotel name, you make sure that 100% of that traffic comes to you.
Yeah, great. So we're a bit out of time. We're going to take like a last question before concluding this. So it's from Wijaya, asking if we can have more specific classes for Google Ads in how to create effective campaigns step by step, how to save budget, and so
on. So in this webinar series, we haven't included that part yet, but we've taken actually a lot of requests, a lot of different ideas from these webinars, and we'll probably come up with another webinar after this series finishes, where we would probably focus more on the technical part, more the specifics, kind of a step-by-step type of webinar, and help you make the right decisions. So stay tuned. We'll announce those series after this.
Okay.
All right. So that would be it for us. Just quick reminder. So we mentioned this in the last webinar. The case applies again in this one. So feel free to book your one-on-one session with our team. We'll gladly answer your questions, give you more insights on the industry, whether it's how to maximize your website production, what's wrong either with your website, with the booking engine, or your traffic, let's say, or with your digital marketing. So our experts are here to help during these times of crisis. We want to give back as much as possible to our partners or to our industry. and just feel free to book. There's no commitment, it's free sessions. Just for us, if we can help as much as possible, we gladly do. So feel free to book your sessions. We will send a link to book a session in the newsletter. So just click on it, register, and we'll get in touch with you to set up some time. So really feel free to do this. We're here to help as much as possible. All right. So also we have a book available on Amazon. So if you want to also get more details on online performance marketing, feel free to do so. It is available in Kindle and paper formats as well. But yeah, so would like to thank everybody. They took the time to attend the webinar. We got full capacity. I think we were just over 100 participants today. So thank you all for the questions. Thank you all for the commitment. And hopefully the situation would improve for everybody. And in the meantime, we're here to help you. Please do not hesitate to get in touch with myself directly or anybody else from the team.
Okay, thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you next week for the next episode. Stay tuned. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, everyone.